Well, howdy. Welcome back once again to the Withlacoochee River Railroad and the Withlacoochee River Report. The report where you will be highly offended by my compelling rhetoric. Follow me through the intro and we'll come back on the other side. Well, in the news this time around, I don't know if I mentioned it the last time. Of course, I have been working a little bit on that train station there. You notice that I've got the RS1 pulling the train this time, and it's not really bogging down like it would coming up over the bridge here. From either direction, it seems to hold the power just fine now. So I did find that I had a bad ground wire there, and or a badly connected ground wire right there, and just soldering that back in made all the difference. Also in the news this week, you know, I did the I actually got this. I just got the video uploaded of this structure here being painted. Did a lousy job on the video, I might add. You know, it's kind of hard to aim the camera and hold the thing and try to paint it all at the same time. Even though I do have a tripod. The tripod's a piece of junk, as is most everything I have. Anyway, we do have it painted, and I did put the black wash on it. And as you can see, it makes the structure look, it gives it a nice age. In the next episode of Monday Night Madness, and notice I changed the name. I'm not calling it I've taken the name Maintenance out of it. It's Monday Night Madness. And the reason for that is, well, maintenance, you do it, you know, it's quite often, but you don't do it all the time, so it really didn't make any sense. Whoops! I lost the train. What? Oh, it's all the way back there. How'd that happen? Well, I know how it happened. Every once in a while, those KD couplers, even though for the most part they don't give me a whole lot of trouble, on these electro couplers on this engine, they don't do all that well either. Let me get it all back together, and I'll come back. Now that I got all that squared away. Sometimes those KD couplers don't like to hang on to some of the O-gauge couplers very well, and they do have a tendency to come off. So, that being said, let me get my camera straightened up here. That being said, we I do plan on taking and changing the couplers on that RS1 and on the RS3 and probably on all my F units eventually. And they will all have solid pilots and body mounted, what we call in the two rail world, what would be called body mounted couplers, instead of those blasted Talgo type couplers that we seem to deal with in the three rail world. Also last week, and I alluded to it a little bit in the Monday Night Madness video, as to how we're going to put windows in here. Because again, so many of these building kits, they have gotten to the point where they just don't give you any window glass. Why they do that, I don't know. Even design preservation models, when they were cheap, remember those days when the kits were like between $3 and $5 each, and it was just in a poly bag, a flat kit, you know. And they were great. But they give you a clear piece of plastic to use to put your windows in. And why they don't do that anymore. Anyway, I had to learn on this piece here, because this is a piece to this train station over here that I am deciding whether I'm going to sell it yet. Anyway, you take a piece of Scotch tape and let me reiterate, let me point something out here. And this I give the Fritos test to. You know, if you want a Frito pie, or you want Fritos, or you want anything that tastes like Fritos, it has to be Fritos. Okay? By Frito-Lay. It has to be Fritos. It cannot be anybody, it can't be Oots, it can't be anybody else's corn chips. It's got to be Fritos. Or it's not going to taste right. It ain't going to be right. It's not even going to taste good in some cases. Well, the same test kind of applies here. Because when I started putting, and I don't know if you can see, but you can see that I've got glass in those. And I have put the clear school glue on them. This here clear Elmer's school glue. You brush it on. You can pick this up at any Walmart, probably any office supply store, anything that sells, any place they sell any kind of school supplies. Probably pick them up at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. Anyway, these windows, even though they're not dry yet, they're looking pretty good. Now, I imagine they will dry pretty soon. The reason that you put the glue on is because, you know, when you put the tape on from behind, what will happen is you still have that sticky part out. Dust flies everywhere. You get that crud all in there. And, you know, after a while, that window ain't going to look too good. So you put the glue on it, and what it does is it seals it up. It ensures that 10 years down the road, you'll probably still have a window glass in there. And it also will cover up that sticky tape. That's the reason you do that. But do not go and buy this thinking you're getting the same thing as you would from our friends at Walmart. Because, well, you know, Walmart likes to sell cheap stuff, and it is cheap crap. And it just isn't Scotch tape, okay? It's not Scotch tape. Scotch tape pulls off smoothly and clear. This here, you end up with a bunch of lines through it. This is crap. This is probably fine if all you want to do is tape a couple of things together and send it on its way. But if you're going to use transparent tape in your window glass, on your buildings, and on your locomotives, and that stuff, you know, how many of our O-gauge steam locomotives, you expect it in HO. Well, in HO, the windows are small enough you can take that micro scale crystal clear stuff and work it around, and you'll have a window that won't do too much concave on you. But if you tried it on something, say, shit. Well, thank God those MTH cabooses are tough, huh? That made me mad. Didn't even bother to realize that it was coupled to it. Anyway, how many of these engines have we... there's no window glass in there. Come on. Now, I realize that this was back, I don't know whether I'm going to make that loading dock out of wood or foam. I want it to be a concrete loading dock, and I want it to look like a concrete loading dock. I'm just dropping everything today. Thank goodness I didn't drop this, huh? So, with that in mind, also you'll notice that this time I'm not covering a train show. I probably won't be covering a train show again until April. We've got a train show coming up in April in Crystal River. Then we'll have one coming up in May, and that will be probably our final shot for the season until September. So those will be the final reports that involve train shows around here, at least on my channel. It's just one of those things, just one of those. You know, I can't travel very much because I have to get up and work often through the week. And if I don't have to get up and work, I got to get up and take the wife to a doctor's appointment, take myself to a doctor's appointment. You know, getting old sucks, guys. You really don't want to have to do it. But, of course, we all will. Hopefully many of us will live long lives. We lose our friends all too quickly. So, anyway, until next time, let's watch a train run, shall we? Okay, so now for one of my rants. One of the things I've noticed lately is it seems like pricing is going. Of course, it is. After the Bidenflation debacle of the last 4 years, we're finally beginning to get some common sense going along here. Egg prices are finally coming down a little by little. They're still way too high. Things happening, you know. Things happening. We still want to be able to buy our trains. We're still looking for that elusive model that we've always wanted. We all looking for that, right? Train shows, you're never going to find them at the hobby shop, and if you do find it at the hobby shop, it's going to be full retail every time, and it might just not be in your budget. I know that I have a set budget, being that I'm somewhat on a fixed income. Now, I supplement that income by working through the week. It's you know, but I can only work so many days a week. Not due to any regulation or anything, but the wife has a doctor's appointment about every other week. She's going to have at least one, sometimes two in a week. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 days I can't work because I've got doctor's appointments I have to go to. Oh boy, sometimes it can be a lot of fun. So sometimes I just don't have the money to get what I want. I remember a friend of mine had a nice scale, Hudson, had a lot of wear and tear on it, but and I think it was probably an MPC era scale Hudson. But it was a nice engine. He wanted $80 for it with the tender. I thought, gee, that's not bad. Unfortunately, that was one of those times, and I've been looking for a Hudson since day one here in this iteration of my model railroading. I want to get me a nice scale Hudson. Most of your scale Hudsons are going to be priced way beyond what I can generally afford. But like I said, he had this one for 80 bucks. I didn't have 80 bucks that time. I could almost cry, you know. At the last show, he had a semi-scale Hudson. And it was a nice one. And he was wanting 75 for that one. He sells stuff fairly cheap because he gets it fairly cheap. While I did have the money on me and could have done it, because it was only a semi-scale and not a scale Hudson, well, I wasn't going to do that. I want a scale Hudson. But, you know, usually when I find a Hudson, it's going to be somebody's got a 773 over here, or they've got one of the more valuable ones sitting on their table, and they want way more than my budget allows. I have to have a certain amount of budget in case somebody comes up, and at the show in Crystal River, that's exactly what happened. I ended up paying out 40 bucks and getting some more stock, and we've sold most of that off and made a profit on it. That's another thing I do. I don't only work. Sometimes we work these train shows, and I'm able to buy some stuff, and we made the money back before that show was over in Newport Richey. So I got that stock in Newport Richey, and I still have stuff to sell off. So I've made my money back. But still, there were no scale Hudsons to be had there. There was a nice scale. The guy was right next to me who sold me that B unit that was all smashed up. You know, where the body shell was all torn up, which that's heartbreaking. He had a nice Berkshire there that I wanted to get. But he wanted $200 for it. See, that put it right out of my budget, because that was really all the money I had in the budget for that show. And I to blow it on one engine wouldn't have worked. It's one of the first shows where my buddy Kevin, I didn't buy anything from him because, well, he didn't have any scale stuff with him. He had all semi-scale stuff with him for a change. I'm thinking, dang, nothing's working out today, is it? I was able to get a couple of things. I ended up getting a couple of boxcars in that show. One of them was an old Atlas scale car. Love those cars. Love them. I wish I'd find something more than boxcars, though, because I really like the gondolas, and I'd like to get a couple of those old Atlas wide vision caboose, but they just don't come up all that often. I'm talking about the old Roco made products from the 1970s, and chances are it could be one of the kits that was put out in the 80s that was based on that same out of that same set of molds. So I really didn't end up coming home with a lot of stuff that week. I came home with more stuff from Dana's this last time. Spent more than I made, too. That seems to always happen. But, you know, you got to budget yourself. And, I mean, if money is no object for you, then that's one thing. But for me, it's kind of an object, and I have to take and see about what I can afford and what I can put together. Every week that I put in a few days of work, I'm able to put a few dollars back here and there for the train shows. Sometimes I can put back $300, $400, $500. A lot of the time, I can't. Typically, you notice that I'll buy my rolling stock. I'll tell you what I pay for it. I pay about $20 a car, usually, because I get them from my buddy who is selling off his dad's collection. and he's just trying to move stuff. If he wanted to, he could sit there and, now when it comes to his locomotives, he's trying to make a profit, and yet he's still selling them at a pretty good deal. He hasn't had any Hudsons. He's had plenty of other engines I would love to have, but again, they were beyond my budget. This at the show in Newport Richey just a few weeks ago, he did have a pair of beautiful Burlington E units. He wanted $400 for them. There's no way. There was no way that I could afford that. I would have loved to have had them, but I couldn't afford it. So I have to go in with the mindset that I've got to have a budget. I've sat there and I've watched Lionel, and how they get away with it, I don't know. They moved over to they moved their production over to China. They didn't lower their prices any. Neither has Atlas O. Everybody out there wants $70, $80, $90 a car now. Almost $100 a car. I feel very fortunate that I'm able to get my cars for $20 a car. But I have to wait for the next train show because I'm not going to get that at Dana's. If he gets any in. He's got all semi-scale stuff sitting on his shelf too. My buddy John, he often has cars $10, $15. He's basically got a warehouse full of trains also, and he sells them cheap. I mean, there's some stuff he'll get a certain item. I want a certain amount for that car, and he'll get it. And sometimes he gets it from me, which is fine. But every once in a while, he ends up with the old Atlas cars. I got a couple of old Atlas stock cars from him one day. They were just sitting there on his table. He was wanting $10 a piece for them. They were right there along with a bunch of other cars, and of course, just like the Polo Maxi cars he gets every once in a while, I pull them right up out of the, because I've been a two-railer. I notice those cars when I see them. They're there, they're easy to spot every time. And I'll get them anywhere. Some days it's $5 each. Some days it's $10 each. It just depends on what mood he's in. But I go in with a budget. And like I've said before, the first thing I do when I go into a train show, and this is what you got to look for. Of course, you're going to look at the guys. These guys are always going to have the premium stuff sitting on top of the table. Sometimes you got to look under the table. Sometimes you got to go down, look under the table, see what's down there. Because sometimes there's a gem down there. Sometimes you can buy a whole box of junk and end up with a treasure in there you didn't expect. That's right. But sometimes you can work deals with these guys, and they'll let you have something, especially if they've been carrying it around a while. So a lot of these vendors, they've been carrying their stuff around a while, and they ain't getting the prices they're asking a lot of the time. And it would be it would be great if they did. If we had that. And it may come back again. We may end up with another chance at a robust economy before, the world falls apart. Or Jesus comes back and takes me to heaven. That sort of thing. We may end up with a robust economy. And I think that we will, but I think we're going to have to, with the way things have been for the last few years, we probably going to have to go through a little pain to get to a little bit of paradise. But in the meantime, the train shows are your answer to finding anything, I think. I've managed to put a model railroad together, just finding bits and pieces here and there. And when I say bits and pieces, I'm not talking, I find bits and pieces in the way of parts, yes. But I'm talking about finding decent rolling stock here and there. And, you know, I feel I'm fortunate to have a friend like Kevin around who's got his dad's stuff he's trying to sell off. Because, and I'm not the only one he's selling to. At the last Brooksville show back in January, he had a whole stack, a whole box full of Intermountain kits. Not a one of those kits was touched. He put them all out on his table, sold them all to one guy before I got to him. Which was all right. I mean, he probably made several $100s. That's how many of those kits he had. It was taking up about a third of his table. So it was taking up quite a bit of space on his table, just those Intermountain kits were, and they were gone in an instant. This guy bought every one of them. I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. And he probably got a much better deal. He probably got them for $20 a piece. Maybe he got them for $15. I don't know. I don't know what he paid for them. But I know he got them because Kevin's trying to move this stuff. You know. Now, don't get me wrong. Kevin's a model railroader too, but he likes the real toy train aspect of the three-rail hobby. Where I lean more toward Norm Charbonneau's channel, and everybody knows Norm's trains. You know, his layout. If I can make mine look a tenth as good as his, I'll be a happy camper. And I'm nowhere near that yet. But if I can make mine look a smidgen as good as Chris's trains and things, or Eric's trains, I'll be a happy camper. None of my layout isn't as big as any of those layouts, but I want it to look similar to their layouts, or you know, as a compilation of their layouts. I'm a scale modeler. And like I've said before, you know, you walk through these train shows, you find those orange boxes. Half of those orange boxes are probably semi-scale. I don't run the two together. I don't care to run the two together, even though I do have a couple of semi-scale engines. I much prefer to have scale equipment. And that's just me. So, but when it comes down to it, I will... You know, if I have it in the budget, I'll pay a little extra money and get the engine I want, or an engine I want. But like I said, I've been looking for a Hudson for a long time. At least the last about 4 or 5 years now. I've been looking for a scaled Hudson. Hadn't found one. Found one. The price was right, and I didn't have the budget to pay the price that time. Oh, I would have loved to have had it though. And he hasn't had it since, because I imagine the price he was asking he got for it without any. Dang. I keep hoping he'll find another one with some green paint slathered on it so I can, and it'd be a nice scale Hudson. Because some people do some crazy things, you know, and I would gladly take it at a reduced price, of course. Anyway, in the next episode, oh, I've got it back over here now. I had to kind of re-edit this. In the next frame, it's going to pick up where I'm talking about putting a loading dock on here, and I want to put an extension to the building on the other side, and that'll make the building not look so symmetrical. So until next time, we'll talk at you later.
We need the new train order.
You know I'll always run a train for you. Especially on the report. Happy railroading, everyone.